Hello. I was gonna say good morning, but I guess it depends when you're listening to this. It's my morning. Welcome to episode whatever of A Tonic for Lunacy. My name is Donna, and I'm your host. And today, what we're talking about is I have some ideas, but I don't really want to give it like an official title yet. So I had a call yesterday with one of my students from the human design shadow training. And we were chatting about her experiences in the program. Like, if you guys don't know this about me, I love to give feedback on the programs. Not necessarily because, like, tell me how good I am, but like, yes, also, why not? I put so much work into this, but also because I really want to improve it and I really want to make it better. And maybe it's my line five, like, or oh my God, I'm not even a line five. Maybe it's my line three that wants to like tell me what my mistakes are, tell me where I messed up, tell me how to fix this. One of the things that she talked about, and I'm sure you've heard me talk about this before because we talk about this a lot in terms of the human design shadow training, we do this thing called the shadow doc. And the shadow doc is where I give you prompts to really help you focus in, hone in on the correct things in terms of shadow. Like, what are the things that I repress about myself? Okay, so let me back up for a second. What is shadow? I know I've explained it, but think of like your biggest gifts, right? Your most valuable individual uniqueness, your traits, right? That make you so special, that are going to make you a gajillion dollars and make you famous if that's what you want. Whatever you want, these traits are going to do it. Now, what happens for most of us is when we are little, those traits become bad. You talk too much. Nobody cares about your opinions. Your intuition is wrong. Your uniqueness makes you different, and nobody's going to love you if you're different. So we develop these beliefs and these ideas around our uniqueness, around our characteristics, our traits, our personality that make us think they are wrong. So let's take uniqueness, right? I have this everywhere in my chart, everywhere in my chart. I beat to the, why do I always mess this up? I move to the beat of my own drum. I do things my way. I'm a little bit different. Some things that I do, other people are not going to like, do it anyway. And that was definitely something I repressed and made wrong. Like, I conformed hardcore because, as most of you know, I moved to America from Israel. I was very, very different. And I had to conform to survive. So a lot of these things are for survival, but then we forget. We forget that this is who we are because we're so conditioned to be this new version of ourselves that we don't even realize that we're doing it. We don't even realize that we're doing it. So that's what I use human design for, right? Like, human design in my definition is going to show you me, all of my unique traits. It's going to show me who I am at the core. Now, if I don't resonate with that, then that tells me that I've repressed it. Now, how can I figure out how I've repressed it or what my behaviors are that are not me? I can look at my openness, the not self in my openness. Also, some parts of our definition. That's the work that I do because I want to show you who you are, what you've repressed, what you've made wrong, turned it into a shadow. Maybe it's your uniqueness. Maybe it's the fact that you talk a lot. Maybe it's your way of expressing, whatever it is. I want to show you that how you've made that wrong and what you've put in its place, right? What you layered on top of that. And that could be anything from, I need to speak in this way. I need to look like this. I need to have this type of partner. I need to do this with my life, with my business. So that's what we really do with the human design shadow chart and the shadow report. That's what that helps you do. Where I was getting to is I had this conversation with Tabatha, and actually I'm going to play the video, the entire video for you guys. at the end of this, but I had this conversation with Tabatha about the shadow doc because she was saying how great the shadow doc is because one, I prompt you to answer things in a very different perspective, in a very different way, because we want to know what is not you. What have you been pretending is you? What do you hate about yourself, right? We want to get into all of it. Now, she said something about your self-improvement, your growth being capped that I just thought was so, it was just like such a great way of saying it. Like we've all experienced it, right? We've all been there and experienced like, I feel like I've done everything. Like I've read all the books, I've hired all the coaches, I've done all of the things, and I feel capped at my growth. I feel capped at improvement, at like moving my life forward, moving that needle forward. Like I feel like I'm just at the top of the top and I don't like, I've done everything. I don't know what else to do. And that is the power of this subconscious work. That's the power of looking at your subconscious beliefs, your repressed traits, your shadows from the perspective of human design, because it gives you an entire different way of looking things that it will unlock all new levels. All new levels. I promise you, you're not capped. It's just that you've been repeating the same shit over and over again, and it's not unlocking new things. I have processes for unlocking new things, right? That's what I do in everything that I teach is how can I unlock new things, because we have tried it all. So that's what the shadow doc is. It's one of those tools that we use to unlock new things. Now, one thing that Tabatha said was that the shadow doc was helpful because she didn't see my face. And I was like, whoa, easy. Okay, that's rude. No, I'm just kidding. And she said, I didn't see your facial expressions. Like when you're coaching or even in therapy, when you're sitting across from your therapist, you see their facial expressions. And sometimes we don't even realize what our eyes say, what our faces do when somebody's talking to us. So I've just found that fascinating because there's a term called neuroception. And neuroception is essentially my way of explaining it, my way of merging science and mysticism and all that shit, is your aura comes into contact with a trigger. Your brain hasn't registered that trigger yet, but your body, your aura, already feels it. So neuroception allows you to perceive something before the brain does. So it's like me perceiving your eyes and what your eyes are saying to me. That might be a trigger for me because of blah, 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 whatever, right? Whatever happened in my childhood, whatever happened last week, whatever. But what we don't realize is that we are constantly doing this. Like we go through life and we're like, oh my God, I have anxiety. Oh my God, I have this. I have this. I feel this. Why do I feel all of these ways? And we don't realize that our aura is constantly perceiving things. And how are we, once it does reach the brain, what's the meaning that we're giving to this? And this is another way that I use human design to help me understand what I might be feeling that I don't know, right? So I'm perceiving something, this neuroception thing is happening. I'm perceiving something in my environment and it's a trigger. And all of a sudden I'm hot and I'm sweating and I'm like, what's happening, right? So we try to make sense of it instead of just letting it be what it is and using our nervous system regulation tools to help shift it. But I thought it was so, like, it's so perfect with the shadow doc because there's literally nothing, I'm not there to trigger any kind of response from you. That releases the pressure and the stress from you having to give me a certain kind of answer, right? Now you get to go back and work on this for days, weeks, if you want, without the pressure of me sitting there waiting for an answer. So that's another tool. And I want to play the call with Tabatha because she just has such like a great way of explaining things and how the human design shadow program has helped her. But that is something that we do deeply in the program, because I don't believe that you can do this work without first doing it on yourself. When I keep telling people, like, I need to have a warning for this. Like, when we start doing this work, even as soon as you start signing up, we have our first call, things begin to change. Things begin to change in your reality because everything is lining up for you to have this experience. And your perception, your thoughts, your beliefs, your ideas, the way that you view the world and other people will never be the same. This is my warning. It will never be the same, because we go into the psychology, the subconscious piece so deeply. Like, I don't give you the fluff. I don't care about the fluff, right? Like, we just dive right in and we explore your subconscious mind first. What's in there, what's happening in the mind, what's happening in the body, and how do we bridge that gap to create healing, to create understanding, to create compassion, to create curiosity, right? To get to the root of what is holding you back. So that's the first part. And then the second part, I teach you all of the nuances, all of the human design nuances that other people are not teaching. And this is what I mean when you're capped when you feel like you're capped, you've done it all, right? You've done all the self-development work. When you start to perceive it from a different layer, from a different place, maybe somebody asks you a different question. And I have worksheets on this. Like, we ask all kinds of different questions that maybe you've never considered before. That's what's going to unlock different layers. Not listening to another Brene Brown podcast, not reading another book by whoever, right? It's looking at things differently. And that's really what my gate 1 loves to do. And my line 3. And all of the other things in my chart. So that's really, really, really what we do, is we try to get you to go beyond the cap, beyond your comfort level for sure, but unlock different layers, different levels of understanding of yourself, so that you can peel away more and more and more of those layers to get to that subconscious, to that core belief of, I am this, and that makes me bad. That makes me wrong. That makes me unlovable. That's what we want to do. So you can start doing that for free with the shadow chart, and I'll drop a link. And then you can, get the report for $97 and dive even deeper and get my specific process on how to begin to undo all of the doings, all of the conditionings. Or you can join us in the Human Design Shadow Training. And that starts in the first week of September. So we're running out of time. And this might actually be the last time that I teach it live. And that's because I want to spend more time creating different things. I have gate 1 in my sun. Like, I love to create new things. I love to do, like, when my sacral's on, it is on. But when I feel like I am being called to redo something like this is our 4th round. It's not that I don't want to do it. It's not that my sacral isn't excited about it. It's like, I need something different. I need something new. And I'm really, really leaning into my line 1 of research, and just like having the time and the space to sit down with my books and my brain and my journals, and just coming up with new ways of doing old things, and just researching the fuck out of it and creating that foundational element for all of us. And then the line 3, like, trying different things. And when I commit to something like a 6-month program, it's really hard to have the time and the space. So this might be the last time that I run it live. And this is, like, let this be an example also of how, through my process of deconditioning and doing this shadow work, I find myself leaning more into my definition, right? Into my profile lines, into my sun gate, into my Pluto, like, just leaning more into my definition, because I've taken off those layers. And it's like, this is where I want to go. But yes, there's still things that are like, well, you can't do this because blah. But I'm so aware of them, and I know, and I can do the shadow work quickly on them and move the fuck on and trust, because I have that confirmation, that validation from before, from all the times I've tried it. And also because I know that these conditionings, that these things that we think are real are actually not real at all. And we get to decide what's real. I know that's like a loaded statement. Even when I hear me say that, I'm like, that's fucking pretentious. It takes work to get there, and I'm not always perfect at it, but I'm not willing to let that hold me back, right? Like at some point, you get tired of being on that hamster wheel and doing the same shit over and over again, expecting a different result. Like at some point, you just have to take a leap of faith, if you will. The Fool, Gate 51. And that's kind of where I'm finding myself at. Like, I want to spend more time researching. I want to try to do things a little bit differently, to like experiment, like see what works, see what doesn't work, play around. So I don't know. This might be the last time we run it live. We might make it into a self-paced program, although I feel like that kind of takes some of the juiciness out of it, because not having one-on-one interaction, not having one-to-many interaction, the group, it takes some of like the zest out of it. So we shall see. Maybe Whitney will run it. Maybe one of my other students will run it. We shall see. We shall see. But in the meantime, I am feeling called to move into more of what makes me different, right? What makes me unique, like dropping it and just starting something new, or, optimizing the shadow report. Like I'm obsessed with the shadow report right now, like obsessed. Like right now I'm working on another part of it that's going to be your shadow genius. How do I find my shadow genius? What does that even mean? That's like what's hiding under all of my shadow, like that trait I just told you about. Like your uniqueness, whatever it is that you've repressed, how do I find that in my body graph? And how do I go from the shadow aspect of it to the genius aspect of it? So I'm working on getting that to be part of the report as well. If you have already purchased the report, you get these upgrades for free. We're working on a good way of doing that. But in the meantime, if you want to email me because you've bought the report and you want the upgrade to what it is right now, let me know. Just email me. So there's a lot of things I want to play with, a lot of things I want to work on. And I do feel like HDST kind of confines me because it's 6 months. And while I love it and I love everything that everybody is getting out of it, I just feel like I need to shift. So that is where I'm at. So probably last live round, I would love for you to join. There's only, I think we're doing 10 to 12 people. We already have one person committed, another one on the fence. So potentially only 8 spots left. We would love to have you on there. If you need help with payment plans, let me know. I am always happy to work with you. And this will absolutely break your glass ceiling of self-development. You will be in a whole new level, in a whole new building of development, way ahead. So I'm going to play for you right now my interview with Tabatha, and I hope you love it. If you have questions, I'm always here. Let me know. All right, bye-bye. So the things that I'd kind of love to hear you talk about, as much as you want to share or as little as you want to share, sort of like where you were before you started HDST, where you are now, what you think some of your biggest accomplishments have been, biggest, aha moments, things like that.
Okay, great. Okay, so I wanted to explain or break down into main themes, like conversation around like what you said, like, the human design shadow training as such. How do I see it as a certification program? And then what I learned. And I want to start by saying that in regards to how I got to this program, I was actually very adamant around anything that had to do with inner child healing or anything like that. And I somehow resisted that because I felt that it was a lot around dwelling in the past and, kind of like just being stuck in whatever happened in the past. And so like I was very, yeah, like I was just interested in the way that you presented the offer on how is it that, we are doing a lot of work and still we face kind of like a cap. And so that was kind of like the motivator. I didn't know really anything about shadow work before this program. And I think it was good because I also had no, I'm going to say, any sort of prejudice around it. I had no bias on it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like the other part was like I got introduced through Shadow Stripper School. And when I first joined after, because I felt like, it's a significant investment, so I'm going to go for the membership. And that kind of like, after I was there like 2 weeks or something, I saw that, okay, yeah, I feel like this is going to be a good thing. And then I took the decision to join the program. And so from the I'm going to say the structure of the program and what I learned about it is that I feel that one of the biggest strengths that the program offers through how you teach is that you have accomplished a degree of neutrality in yourself. And I feel that this is very, very important. I had a lot of resistance as well in getting to another program where, people with their best intentions are somehow very, I'm going to say, limited by their own lack of self-awareness or, with best intent, but they mess up.
Yeah.
And so like, I feel that because of, like how you relate to trauma and how you do the work, then it really made me feel that it was a safe space. And even, when you made jokes and all of the, like all these type of things, I didn't feel like I didn't feel like a dress. I just felt it was fun. And honestly, I felt it that way because I really felt it was not about the words. It was more about your inner state and how that materialized in the delivery. Okay, and last thing about the program is that I was like mind blown by the whole concept of doing the shadow work over a document. I had never experienced that. And when you said like, oh, you're gonna write a document, I was like, I want to write a document. But like when I started doing it, and it took me a lot of time and I faced a lot of resistance and all of that. But I have to say that I found, and I shared this with you before, like, I mean, I found that the exercise of writing things down without seeing the face of the other person, kind of like interfacing you, is like really golden, specifically because these topics are very sensitive. And so sometimes, I just came with some ideas and then I could write them down and then I'll follow up in the document and then I would then maybe just leave it. But like that process of iterating, like throughout time allowed me to really put on the effort and not judge you and keep, I'm going to say, as pure as possible the whole exercise of going deep into the subconscious. So that's in regards to the program. Like I feel, yeah, like I feel that you have, it's very clear that you have put a lot of thought into how to make people get to do the work in the, I'm going to say, safest way possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing with the shadow doc, and I think it's so interesting that you brought up, that you're not face to face with someone, because we don't realize how that affects what we say, or even the way that we think about things, and how we could be triggered by somebody's reaction, the look in their eyes that I might not even realize I'm doing, but you somehow see it. So I think that is definitely another level of what makes the shadow doc so, so powerful. And yours, I mean, it probably took you a long time because it was so pretty, like the prettiest shadow doc with all the colors and the charts and the it was fun to go through.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I really put a lot of like intent into how I do things, and I also wanted to be able to follow through because you gave me feedback and it was feedback on top of the feedback and so on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I feel that that was definitely like, that is one of the, I'm gonna say, in my opinion, one of the golden premises of the whole training. I mean, just that, I think it's
For
just
sure.
worth it 100%.
Yeah, it changes the way you see yourself and then the way that you perceive other people as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel that maybe to add on that is that, something that I noted was that that exercise really, it has so much depth to how it allows us to even kind of like shift the perspective of how we relate to ourselves. Because, the conscious mind, and now I'm going to jump segue to what I learned, is like the conscious mind is very smart in tandem with the subconscious to kind of like make us believe that what we're doing at any given moment makes sense and it's right. And I feel that that can be very, that's actually what creates a lot of trigger, because it's like you're thinking from that level of awareness, and it's like, yeah, but I'm right, like, I'm doing this because. And so that exercise, even like that reflection, that reflective process allowed me, even in the boxer, whenever you gave some feedback that was, I'm going to say, a little bit tough love, I was like, what is she saying? And then I felt like, well, no, wait, no, what am I thinking? Why am I feeling? It was not about her. But like, I really had to kind of like step back, and through the document, first of all, the ideas that you, like the insights that you gave me in the document were absolutely, like, I was very grateful, because I wouldn't have come up with those ideas. In some cases it didn't match, in some cases it did match, but it really gave me fuel to reflect on why was I thinking that way, and also gave me kind of like hints of, yeah, maybe it has nothing really to do with what I thought it was.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the key. And to just kind of circle back to what you said in the beginning about doing all this work but feeling kind of capped, usually it's because we're using just one perspective, or we're looking at things just the way that we see them rather than all of the different ways that they can be perceived. So that is, really the goal of the program, is to be able to look at the same thing, the same trigger, the same issue, the same wound, but in all of these different perspectives: human design, shadow work, psychology, my perspective, yours, Whitney's, whatever, everybody else's in the group. It's just that expands your consciousness, that it expands what you're available to perceive.
yeah, absolutely, I agree 100%. Okay, and so now, as I said, continuing with what I learned, I mean, I have done, and not to kind of like toot my own horn, but like I started this whole journey almost 10 years ago because of my own story. And I did meditation, and I did a lot of like self-regulation without even knowing what I was doing. It was just more like kind of like I felt, oh, this is, breathwork is going to help me, and cold showers and all that stuff. But as I said, I recognized that there was a limit to it, and I'm pretty certain now that the inner subconscious state is actually reflecting the outer materialization of what we experience, at least in our direct field. And so that was basically what I started with this training. What I started to see that, well, actually, it's maybe not really necessarily about changing everything, or maybe changing it in a way that it's going to be out of brute force, which now it's around human design. Like, okay, how can I really integrate that in a way that feels less theory and more reality, more practice?
Yeah.
And that, I mean, like, kind of like coming to terms with the shadow aspect, that it's the part that we don't necessarily are or we're not necessarily so proud of, or we are not we're it's not something that we want to necessarily embellish, but like having that awareness and starting to recognize that, okay, yeah, maybe maybe this is another opportunity to be more honest with myself. And I think that I got to a point in that document where, like, I started to see, like, you didn't really mind me telling you the truth. And I also didn't mind being totally honest. So I came to a point where I was thinking, like, yeah, I mean, like, I started to really speak, like, very frankly in the document. And I started to see that I still had a lot of conditioning, despite the fact that I have done 2.5 prior trainings in human design. And, like, I have done a lot of work in the past. And, I was not, in my opinion, a newbie, but still, in many ways I was. And in many ways I realized that, well, maybe, this whole chapter of my life before I left my last corporate job, I had created a persona who I wasn't really myself. And that was kind of like that was a very harsh truth for me to kind of like really acknowledge and see, because it's like, then you start to question, then who am I? Really?
Right. yeah, if I'm not all of these things that I thought myself to be, then who am I? And that's really the point that we want to get to, because at least we're recognizing all of these things that I thought were me are actually not me, the not self.
Exactly. And so in regards to human design, as I said, I had I know in the coaching industry there's a lot of critique around like going with different coaches and trying different things and so on. But for me it was important because I really questioned everything, and I realized that I wanted to learn from different teachers to see how that landed in myself.
Mm.
And I mean, I'm very grateful for the trainings that I did in the past. They definitely helped me. And I feel that the let's say the extent to which you go in this whole program is by no means for starters. Like, I mean, you can start with it, but it's going to be kind of like, oh, you have to kind of like catch up a lot.
Yeah.
So that was, especially when, for example, like I've never heard about format energy and kind of like the repercussions of that. And I have looked through genetic matrix at some of the other charts, like, dream one, but like I had never got, any information or any discussion around that, or the circuitry. Like I was like, now I really started to understand what that meant. And I started to see like, yeah, I mean, in a way, like my theory around like just focusing on the authority, I mean, it's good, but I feel that it's way much more nuanced. And when you start to understand the themes like within your gates, and how is it that we are set up in the different circuits, and like the groups that are there, it gives you I would say a more holistic perspective of who you are. And that really also helped me to understand myself better, because I, like from a planet standpoint, I had some knowledge, but like in this training, you really go in depth to understanding like, oh, this is how it could play it out.
Yeah.
And that was definitely something that I was very, very happy about. Like, and sometimes I was thinking like, oh my God, this is too much. But I was thinking like, I'm happy that I went through this program, because I really saw like a huge jump between where I was and kind of like the information that's floating, I'm gonna say, in the mainstream around human design versus where I am now, and what I kind of like learn out of that, out of this knowledge.
Yeah, you definitely up level yourself above what I'm calling the basic bitch human design information. That's like type, projector, you don't have energy, and also a lot of it isn't true. And I really kind of pride myself on using a lot of Ra's source materials. Like I will tell you, hey, like I adapted this, or hey, this is source material. Like this is what Ra specifically said. So I do try to keep it very informative and very real and raw in that perspective.
And now that you mentioned that, now I remember something else. I mean, I took notes and I went back through everything at the big, but because like so many things happen in every call and so on. And something that I remember that I was very positively surprised was when we talk about, the story that I talked to you about my sacral authority. And then like, I really liked how you were hinting me like, oh, I was talking about the spleen, and you were saying like, no, maybe that's a sacral authority. But I really like the fact that, for me, one of the foundational, I'm going to say, challenges of anything is that I don't want to subscribe to anything just because it's there. And I like the fact that you were very careful to say, okay, this is in my expertise, what I know, this is what's been said by Rad, like, the theory. But it doesn't mean that I'm canceling you. It doesn't mean that, you are, I mean, better for yourself. And that really gave me the thought like, yeah, or maybe I want to reassess what I thought I knew.
Yeah.
Because I feel that, the problem is that, and my problem with human design in principle has been that I don't want to use it as an identification system. Like, oh, I am this, I am that. No, I'm me.
Right.
So I like that you are not subscribed to that model. You're more like, okay, so take this, take that. And you openly also state, kind of like, this is how I see things. This is how our, what we know, let's say, but this is the experience that I have. And then, that opens a conversation for us to really be, I would say, more curious about how that applies to us. And obviously something that I really, really appreciated, and I don't say this lightly because I have been through a lot of programs in the last year, is the community that you have. I mean, like this cohort in Voxer was like, to me, it was like by far the best one that I've been, and I have been to many programs, and it just felt very real. You know, people were really in the, I'm going to say, in the energy of the group, and there was honesty and there was respect and there was support, and you know, like I just felt that I was very happy actually to be able to express myself freely there. And I think that obviously that has to do with how you set up the whole container.
Yeah, I mean that the Voxer group is key. And I think part of that is keeping the program small. Like, you know, if there were 50 people in there, that would be insane. You wouldn't get to know each other. You wouldn't feel comfortable enough sharing. It would just be crazy. So keeping it small, I think, it does make it more intimate. But yeah, like the women in it were amazing and they shared themselves and everybody knew that we were learning together, so there was no pressure. And you know, I think one of the other women said there was no witch wound or like sister wound or something where you feel like you're competing with each other. Like there's none of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, also Whitney did a great job.
Yeah,
I really like that, you know, that you guys you were very present. Even yeah, sometimes, you know, like for my time zone, I was sometimes thinking like, well, how is that gonna play out? But I didn't really feel it because you wake up super early, so
I do.
it's not even that late for me, and I already hear that you're writing. I'm like, oh my god. So yeah, I feel that, you know, and then again, after doing a lot of programs, I feel that this program is really, it really feels that it is the output of a lot of research, a lot of integrity that has been put into it. Like I really feel that you really take it seriously, and also you do it lightly because you know it's a heavy topic.
Yeah.
And that makes it fun. Like I laugh a lot on watching the videos because, and you know, when the classes, because you make these jokes and I'm like, why is she saying this?
I know.
But it's funny, and I feel that that honestly, you know, for the delivery that you have, I really feel it's one of the best, if not the best investment that I've done, because it's really, you know, sometimes you feel like you are paying more money and then you don't get back what you would have expected. And obviously that's very biased by how ready you are, and you know how invested you are in doing the work and all of that stuff.
Sure.
But to me, you know, it felt like I was doing different things, and I just felt drawn to prioritize this program because I started to see like, oh yeah, like, you know, there are so many aspects of my life that I'm covering here that I felt that this was the thing. And, you know, I didn't have to do drugs or had to do anything, kind of like join a cult or anything. It was just like sitting down and doing that work that I was like, yeah, I mean, like, this is what I have been avoiding, this honest conversation. So
yes. I had one of my coaches posted on Facebook the other day, what you really need is not a business coach, but like a spiritual mentor. And it's true, because like a lot of the things that we're working for towards, even in business, are actually foundationally like spiritual. Like they're about self-growth and they're about what you believe in and how, and your, you know, your connection with yourself. And that really opens the doors to everything once you have this foundational information and awareness.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I feel like there's no better way to, I mean, everybody's spiritual. It's just like the question of how active your spirit is. But I feel that the best way to be really activated in your spirit is actually to be in business. And I feel that for me, like being in business was related to how am I being in my life. And yeah, I mean, as I said, you know, I'm very grateful that all the decisions that finally led me to find you and find about your work allow me to take the decision and getting to the program and do the work and be kind of like, I think, if I can take away like the biggest learning is like become aware that even the biggest, most outrageous I'm gonna say decisions that I've made, believing that I was powerless or that I had no other choice, I did have a choice. And maybe it was unconsciously granted or giving away, but that is the power of realizing like, well, yeah, I mean, if I believe that I'm a victim, then I am a victim.
Right, right. That's the shift into creator consciousness.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super powerful. Well, thank you so much for sharing this. Yeah, I appreciate it. It was definitely a great cohort. Do you have any last words?
Well, yeah, so I just want to say thank you. Like, I mean, I'm very grateful for you for I feel you're a very real person, and everybody's real, but I feel that there's so many masks that we wear to show ourselves in this or that way, and I feel that that is definitely not the way you are. And
Yeah.
so I really like that because I really feel that that is one of your strengths.
Yeah.
And I also feel that that actually, I mean, I'm more than grateful to share this program. I mean, I have, been in my life very consumed. It has been very, I would say, very enlightening to be myself in the last week, especially. Though I'd say that I have started to see changes in myself and in my world, and I just feel that by knowing more about yourself, like, especially maybe when you were kind of like starting and how you share that you were maybe like what your dad told you, like, oh, take it seriously, like leave this crap and whatever, and you not doing that, like, I just want to say thank you because like I did try therapy at some point. It didn't work for me. I have done a lot of stuff, but like I feel that, yeah, like this is the thing that at least for now, it's helping people.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful that you have the courage to continue, that you are that you chose to go this path. And as I said, I'm super grateful. Like, I don't promote stuff, but like in general, I also recognize there's good programs, but I feel like this program is really golden. And I feel like, the more people become aware how powerful it is to do this work, well, the better, the more people are going to be consciously creating.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.